Okay, this afternoon I'd like to introduce Kevin Moore, partner in the Atlanta, Georgia law firm of Moore, Ingram, Johnson, and Steele. Kevin's going to be discussing the role of the zoning attorney. Well, let's talk about neighborhood groups. You had mentioned them, that you like to meet with them. How do you deal with NIMBYs, not my backyard, who are totally against anything that you do and don't want anything to be done with the property? And do outside public relations firms who specialize in zonings, have any, bearing in weight in trying to turn the tide?
Well, I said I like to meet with the homeowner groups. I would want to state that another way. I believe it's necessary to meet with the homeowner groups. I don't believe anybody likes to meet with people who stand vehemently opposed to what you were trying to propose. And dealing with hostile neighborhood groups, I think first and foremost, you deal with them very forthrightly, and you deal with them honestly. And that is, they're not going to deal with you on the same basis. I find neighborhood groups that are very honest, and I find those that are not. But I feel that if you deal with them honestly and provide them with information and provide them with specific answers to specific questions, that it somewhat gets them off guard, and it gives them a chance to review the proposal. And ultimately, the plan or the strategy in dealing with a neighborhood group, the ultimate goal is to get them to come around to your side and to persuade and advocate that this project is a good thing, that this project is needed, or that it's not harmful to their interests. Oftentimes, you can't do that, but then the secondary goal would be to have hostile neighborhood groups, at the very least, begin to be specific about their concerns and specific about the issues that they find to be offensive or objections to the proposed zoning. And by that I mean they need to provide you a list. You need to ask for a list of their concerns or objections so that in turn, when you're ultimately in front of a elected body that's hearing two sides of this proposed zoning application, you're able to at least provide to the commission or to the council how you have addressed their concerns or why their concerns are unfounded or unjustified. Oftentimes you can paint particularly a real NIMBY-type hostile neighborhood group that doesn't want anything for any reason. You can paint them as unreasonable and paint them with that very broad brush, which can sometimes be helpful and turn the commission or the council to your side. A lot of times hostile neighborhood groups can become not so hostile if you are prepared to offer incentives, stipulations, conditions, greater buffers, less density, offer those types of or other types of improvements to the proposed project, improve the quality, condition the project on a certain aesthetic or level of aesthetics that promotes high quality or value to their area. And those types of things can be used as somewhat as an advantage to gaining their support or at least minimizing their objections. The other key thing I believe to remember with dealing with neighborhood groups is that they're not all powerful. If you as a developer, you do not have to give in to anything they say. You can push back. But the key to me is for the developer to remain committed to the project and the economics of the project and to be committed to being reasonable in addressing their concerns. If the neighborhood wants a fence, as a developer, you should give them a fence. That's as an example, that's a reasonable thing to request, and while it costs money, it certainly is something reasonable that you can do. If they want a stone wall 10 feet in height, that's unreasonable. You don't have to agree to something like that. You can propose a fence in lieu of a stone wall. So that's just a small example that highlights, I think, how you deal with neighborhood groups. You deal with them on a reasonable basis, but not forgetting the economics of your project.